Hello. Hi, good day, everyone, and welcome to this live webinar organized by MedSeal. I hope everyone's had a good night's sleep and is ready for some high yield information about the current situation for FMGs who want to come to Germany to practice as a medical specialist or who want to get trained as a medical specialist. All right, so let's get started. There's a comment section, so please feel free to write down your comments. And at the end of this webinar, we're going to try and look at each and every comment and see if we can give you some information that's going to help you on this journey. All right. So I'm going to start with a small introduction. Who am I exactly? My name is Nigel Vaz. I currently work as a junior consultant urologist in a hospital in North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. I'm co-founder and mentor at MedSeal. And I finished my primary education in 2011 in Saratov State Medical University in the Russian Federation. In September 2011, I cleared my FMG and got my provisional medical registration. After that, I did the compulsory one-year internship in Bangalore, after which I gained my permanent medical registration. At that time, it was at the Medical Council of India. In July 2019, I arrived in Germany. November 2019, I appeared for the Fachsprachprüfung. April 2020, I appeared for the Kenntnisprüfung, which I cleared, and I subsequently got the German Approbation. July 2020, I started my urology residency, and November 2025, I completed my urology residency, which makes me a German board-certified urologist, or as we say in Germany, a Facharzt. So, we're going to talk about a common pattern that has occurred in the past few years, which mainly foreign medical graduates have encountered when they submit their documents here in Germany. So mainly you've studied medicine, say in land A, like Russia, Georgia, China, Philippines, Kyrgyzstan, and then you come back to India, you clear your exams, you get the medical, you do your internship, you get your medical license, and then you apply to Germany. And the sooner you apply to Germany, you hit a wall. The authorities in Germany say that, oh, your studies is not complete. You've not registered in your study country. You need to go back and do these things. So if this is your story, please listen further. This webinar is exactly for you. So what are these German authorities telling you? They're telling you, go back to Russia, sit the accreditation. Or if you're from China, no, you need to write your NMLE, you need to get your Chinese NMLE certificate, and so on and so forth. Your training is not complete. And that's what these guys are telling you. So what are these exams that they keep on mentioning? So every country has a certain set of exams that you need to complete in order, a set of exams and also an internship, and in some cases also post-graduation, in order to be registered in that country. So this is some of the examples of it, yeah? The NMLE, the NPTQE in Georgia, and so on. But this is not new news. All of you guys know these things. So why is this happening? Yeah, why is this happening that all of a sudden these guys have started asking for these requirements? What's the reason? So the assumption is that in German law, the assumption is that you go to a country, or you are from a country, you finish all your training from there, and then you get a license to practice in that country, and then you apply to Germany for approbation. But unfortunately or fortunately, This is not the case in, I would say, mostly unfortunately right now. This is not the case for most of you right now. It wasn't the case for me, and it's not the case for you. Another problem that arises is that in Germany, there's not a single authority. There are 16, yeah? Look at this wonderful map of the federal states of Germany, and there are 16 different authorities where you can apply to, yeah? And this entire system, they tried to change it in 2016. They thought they would simplify it, make it more centralized, but it's safe to say that it kind of got a bit complicated from 2016 onwards. Yeah, and if you remember, each of these 16 authorities have their own set of rules, and they have their own prerequisites, and sometimes it's even a lottery system if you apply to the same authority. Like if you have, I'll give you an example later on. You apply to the same authority, you have the same set of documents, but in spite of that, you might land up getting, one of you might land up getting a rejection, and one of you might land up getting Gleichwertigkeit. Yeah, so we'll talk about that later. Exactly. So how has all these things been complicated? So they tried to simplify it in 2016 with the GFG. Yeah, what's GFG? It's the Gutachtensteller für Gesundheitsberufe. Okay, this is a body which sits in the ZAB, or Zentralstelle für ausländisches Bildungswesen. Yeah, the ZAB. This is in Bonn in Nordrhein-Westfalen. Okay, so the Gutachtenstelle, the GFG the goal of the GFG was to look at every document, to have a central place to look at every document and see if it's equivalent to the German standard. Yeah, so that was the entire point of this system. And the GFG have come up then with their own norms as to if your degree is equivalent, if you finish your studies or not. And it's an easy way to look at this, okay? Everyone has access to this Anabin website. So go to the Anabin website, go to the section Berufsabschlüsse. And if you click on Länder, so you can choose a country where you finish your studies, if it's India, Philippines, Russia, Ukraine, Georgia, etc. Just fill in that here, and then you can have a look at what are the requirements that the GFK has in order for you for them to say that your studies that you've completed your studies. All right. For example, right now we are in 2026, so this has been actually updated in 2026. So according to the GFK, what does the GFK think? What do they say? What do they write here when they say that, okay, you have the license to independently practice in Russia? So in order to practice, you have to finish your primary medical education. That's 6 years of med school, which includes 2 years preclinical and 4 years clinical. And you complete your state exam. Yeah, in Russia, it's called the GOS exam. So that's what most of you who are from Russia have completed. This is exactly what I had done. This is exactly the stage what I had done when I finished my studies in Russia. Yeah, 6 years of education, and then I completed the GOS exam. Now, what they are currently telling you is that that's not enough. You have to get something called as the accreditation. Yeah, so if you've graduated before 2016, there was something called as the internatura, or you could either do your ordinatura, which was 2 years. Internatura is like an internship, which was 1 year, and after that you would get a specialist certificate. Yeah, but right now they've got rid of that. They've got rid of that system, and they've got something as the accreditation. So after 2017, you have a certain it's a three-part exam. So that's like the norm in most of countries right now. We have MCQ thing, and then you have OSCE, where you go through these sections and they test your clinical knowledge, etc. And after that, then you have the license to practice in Russia. So this is the current requirements as of 2026 set by the GFK, which is why some people are getting rejections and they've been asked to go back to their country and finish their education. China. A lot of people from China are facing the same problem, and the problem stems from the same thing. Go to the Anbin website, look at the requirements of the GFK, and see the requirements. Most of you do not have these requirements to independently practice in China, and that's the reason why people are getting rejected. Same thing goes with Georgia. Yeah, Georgia has a straightforward system. Between 96 and 2002, there was a slight change in the system, but right now it's the same thing. So 6 years of training and then your exam at the end. And in order to practice in the country independently, you have to do a residentura. This is the current requirements from Ukraine. This was updated in the year 2025. It's all freely available on the Anbin website. Go check it out. Do your due diligence. Now, the question is, why did this problem start now, and why wasn't this problem back in the day? For example, in 2016, 17, 18, 19, when people like me and people before me applied. It all comes down to the definition of Herkunftsstaat. Yeah, so this is the Gesetz. Ja, Gesetz Nummer 3, Nummer 3, Absatz 6 of the Bundesärzteordnung. So in this Gesetz, the definition of Herkunftsstaat. So if you look at this Gesetz and you say that Herkunftsstaat is your state of origin, if that state is going to be defined as the state where you got your education and not where the state where you're born or where you have permanent residency is, then your degree is not complete. Your education is not complete. Yeah. So the GFK defines Herkunftsstaat as the country where you've completed your education and not the country where you're from. Yeah. This is a very important point. This is exactly why people are facing this problem. Now, this entire thing, which was supposed to be smooth with the GFK, unfortunately, it didn't turn out to be that successful as one wanted. Yeah, the GFK was then overburdened with applications. They had so many applications that all of a sudden, in the summer of 2024, they stopped taking applicants. They said, okay, we can't do this now. We're going to stop taking applicants. And they only started taking applicants again in January 2026. So people who applied at that time, bad luck, they applied in Jan, and some of them even had their documents which were not looked at until June 2025. So they had a huge set of backlog, and which was really frustrating, for anyone. Okay, when we applied back in the day, we faced similar problems. We applied to one Bundesland, and our documents just sat on the desk of some Bearbeiter and was not looked at for months. And then eventually we managed to get our documents removed from that Bundesland and send it to another one, and then finally got a deficit Bescheid and appeared for our exams and could come to Germany. So this problem is not a new thing. This problem has always been there, where it takes a lot of time for them to look at your documents and to process them. Okay. So after this problem, what happened was that many of the Bundesländers, decided not to work with the GFK. They've decided to employ their own Gutachters, or Gutachters are peer reviewers, people who review your documents, who look at the legality of your documents. So there are a couple of Bundeslands who do not work with the GFK anymore, which is a key, according to us here in MedSeal. Applying to Bundesländer that do not work with the GFK anymore. Yeah, is this going to be irrelevant in some time? Probably. There's a new law coming up. Exactly. So as I spoke before, back in the day, two students from the same university, from the same batch, applying for Gleichwertigkeit. They have the same Abschluss, they have the same documents, everything is the same. The only difference is that they have a different surname. So in many places, when you apply for Gleichwertigkeit, your documents sits on the desk of someone and they sort it out according to your surname. So if your surname starts with A, you go to a certain Mitarbeiter who looks at your documents. And if your surname ends with Z or B, in my case, it goes to a different person. So what happened was, there were cases where two people from the same batch with the same documents applied to the same Behörde, yeah? And one of them got Gleichwertigkeit, one of them got a Defizitbescheid and said that you have to apply for the appear for the Kenntnisprüfung. Yeah, so this was back in the day when I was applying. So this made me realize, okay, is it worth it applying for Gleichwertigkeit and then asking, being made to wait for so long, and at the end you still have to appear for the exam? You wasted so much of time, you wasted all the money that you need to get your documents reviewed, which is why back in the day I directly chose the Kenntnisprüfung route. Yeah, not many of you are aware of this route. In some Bundesländer, you can directly choose to apply and to appear for the Kenntnisprüfung, and which is what we're going to advise you to do. Why is that? It doesn't depend on your documents. Yeah, it only asks, are you competent enough to appear and to appear for an exam? Are you competent enough to have the knowledge? Do you have the knowledge that it takes to practice in Germany? Yeah, to treat patients here. Not only your language knowledge, but also your medical knowledge. The problem with the Gleichwertigkeitsprüfung, yeah. First of all, who does it? A Gutachter. Sometimes it's the GFK, sometimes it's someone who's not the GFK. And if it's the GFK, you're in trouble if you do not have the license to practice in your study country. Yeah. Secondly, the cost, up to 1,800 euros. That's even gone up. So from January 2026, if you apply for Gleichwertigkeit in North Rhine-Westphalia, it's not done by the GFK anymore. It's done by the Ärztekammer. Yeah. So depending on your surname, depending on the country where you finished your education, you either go to the Ärztekammer Nordrhein or Ärztekammer Westfalen-Lippe. The cost for Gutachten is up to 3,000 euros. Yeah. Time, like I said, 4 months, 18 months, it's not unheard of. So happens all the time. And now this is the main thing. 67%, or sometimes it even goes to 80% of the applicants still end up having to write the Kenntnisprüfung anyway. So the authorities have seen this problem and they decide, okay, should we come up with a law that makes applicants sit the Kenntnisprüfung anyway before you go for Gleichwertigkeit? And I think, and you're going to see later on, that's exactly what they did. about this law. So this law was passed by the Bundestag. Yeah, this is a nice picture of the Bundestag, but it sits in Berlin. So on the in March 2026, yeah, it was passed by the Bundestag, but it still needs approval by the Bundesrat. Yeah, so Germany is a federal state. So although it's passed by the Bundestag, it still needs to be passed by the Bundesrat. Yeah, Bundesrat is it's something like the upper house. Okay, that's where representatives from the state sit there and they say that okay, a law can be passed or not. All right. What does this law state? So earlier, if you look at the slide, earlier, the default way was when you apply for your documents, you first have to go through the Gleichwertigkeit process. And then only you get a deficit Bescheid or you get Gleichwertigkeit. They'll say, okay, your documents are perfect. Everything is equivalent to German standards. You just apply for the Fachsprachprüfung, prove your German, your language knowledge, and then you can practice in Germany. But now, after the new law, the default way is going to be the Kenntnisprüfung. So when you submit your documents, you have to primarily apply for the Kenntnisprüfung. However, this is another point that people are confused about. This is a very important point. You can still apply for Gleichwertigkeit. Yeah. So if you have documents which are bulletproof, for example, people say if somebody has finished their education in Russia, or let's say for that example, Georgia. If somebody has finished their education in Georgia, and they have the license to practice in Georgia, yeah, then these people can still apply for Gleichwertigkeit. Yeah, and you might just get it. There's no guarantee, obviously. Like I said, sometimes it's still a lottery system. There's no guarantee. Your documents have to be bulletproof. You can still get it. I hope this point is clear. This point is really important. So the question is now, so this law, if it's going to get passed, this law is going to come out, then every document that has been submitted until 2026, after 2026 won't be used by the old law, but the new law. Yeah. So you'll have this the default thing will be apply for the Kenntnisprüfung and not Gleichwertigkeit. But there's still time until 2026. So do we have a solution for people who want to apply right now? Like, say, for example, you're somebody, you've already done your B2, you've already started preparing for the Fachsprachprüfung. And do we at Metziel think there's a solution to this? Yes, there is. There is a solution. In some Bundesländer, you can still directly apply for the Kenntnisprüfung. Yeah. Like we mentioned before, Germany has 16 Bundesländer and everyone has a different system. Yeah. Go on the internet, go on the website of each and every Behörde. Yeah. See what are the requirements. Have a look at the application form properly. Look what's mentioned on the application form. See if you can proactively click a checkbox which makes you appear for the Kenntnisprüfung directly. Yeah, that's the way. Okay. But then again, it's not that simple. Some of these Bundesländer need you to also have a concrete job offer. A job offer from an employer, from a hospital who is willing to train you. Yeah. There are some Bundesländer who work with with a third party. Yeah. So you apply to them your documents get sent to a third party, and then it gets sent back to you. Yeah. So every Bundesland is different. Please do your due diligence and look at the requirements by every that every Bundesland has. Yeah. Some of them have even a compulsory route. You have to apply for Gleichwertigkeit. It's compulsory. You cannot say, okay, ich verzichte auf die Gleichwertigkeitsprüfung und ich will direkt die Kenntnisprüfung beantragen. Doesn't happen. Yeah, you can't do that. And that's exactly what's going to get some of you in trouble. Yeah, or some of you are already in trouble because of that. Yeah, and the only way to get out of such a situation is you get a lawyer or something. Yeah, and people have got out of the situation through a lawyer, but then lawyers cost money and it's time consuming. So we think that the system is still, you can get around the system with the right advice and with the right guidance, and we think that we can help you out with such things. So if somebody needs help from us, please get in touch with us. We are doctors who have gone through the same process. We share the same frustrations what you guys face at different times, and we found ways to navigate it. Visa rejections, documents sitting in somebody's office for months and months, having second thoughts about Germany, and we thought and thinking, is this the right thing? Should we do something else? Should we think about some other country? We've been there, we've done that. So we understand everything that you have, and so please get in touch with if you need our help. The system is complex, but the information is out there. So if you do your due diligence, I think many of you can even do this process without anyone's help. We just have to go on the internet, read, and come to a conclusion. Write emails, call up the Behörde, call them up. If you're at the level of, if you're at the stage where where you're applying for, where you're sending your documents to these Behörde, your German is probably at a B2 level. So at this point, you have to be able to speak to the authorities. So call them up, speak to them, ask them, if I do X, are you going to let me sit for the Kenntnisprüfung directly, or are you going to are my documents going to go on the other pathway? Ask them, call them up. Another thing is, Gleichwertigkeit is still possible, yeah, but your documents have to be bulletproof. You have to have bulletproof documents. You have to have, everything has to be in order, and you can still get it. You know, we have a candidate who's got Gleichwertigkeit in spite of the current situation, the current storm, I would like to call it. But it's still possible, yeah. We can have a look at your profile and see if you're applicable for such a path, or if you think no, in your case it's better to just apply for the Kenntnisprüfung. Yeah, it's very individual. There's no one answer for everyone. Yeah, there's no one blanket answer for everyone. Unfortunately, in today's day, actually every time, the answer to it is it depends. Yeah, so it depends a lot of things. Should I apply now? It depends. Do I need a study license for my study? Do I need a medical license for my study country? It depends. Yeah, the answer to many things is depends. So unfortunately, there's no blanket answer they can tell you, okay, apply to this Bundesland, apply to that Bundesland, and everything is sorted. No, unfortunately not. So the next step to take is yours. Yeah, we think that the best way to get around the system is apply directly for the Kenntnisprüfung. Yeah, show Germany that you have the knowledge and that you have the knowledge to practice here. Apply for the Kenntnisprüfung, clear it, and then get your German approbation. Yeah, and if you need our help, we are here to guide you. All right, that's all I have to share. In case anyone has questions, I'm going to be taking questions now. We're just going to take a 2-minute break and then I'm going to be answering questions. All right. I'm going to start answering questions now. Let's go to the first question. I have not passed FMGE. Okay, that's not a question, that's a comment. How do I answer this? All right, so I'm going to assume something based on your comment. I'm going to assume some things. So I think you've done your education somewhere abroad. You've come back to India and you've not passed your FMGE. The question is, are you going to be able to come to Germany? The answer is no. So you have to have a medical license to practice either in the country where you have finished your education or from India. Yeah, and if you've followed the webinar, nowadays it's unfortunately not enough. Even if you have a license from your home country, that is where you're from. I guess in your case it's India. So let's go to the next question. All right, that's just a hi by the cruising doctor. Hi. That's also somebody saying hello, sir. What about Ukraine? The answer is the same thing about Ukraine. If you have finished if you have the license to practice in Ukraine, then you can apply here. If you don't have the license to practice in Ukraine, but you have a license to practice in your home country, you can still apply here, but not to all Bundesländer. Yeah. So check out which Bundesland doesn't work with the GFK and apply to these Bundesländer. Hello again. All right. Hello, sir. I speak for me and my friends who did MBBS from Georgia. We cleared FMG and want to follow the German pathway. We saw a video stating that MBS from Georgia and China are invalid. This is exactly what was the point of this entire webinar, where we mentioned that yes, there are a lot of people who have finished their education from these countries, and the sooner they applied to the KFK said that your studies are not complete, and you have to go back and finish your studies. Yeah. So this is true. But like I said, there is no blanket answer for anyone. There are people who have applied to Bundesländer and they have been made to sit the Kenntnisprüfung. So it is still possible, but it's difficult. It's possible, but it's difficult. Yeah. If you're somebody who's still in Georgia and you're thinking about or China and you're thinking about applying to Germany, I would advise you try and do all the required exams and internship in Georgia or China and then apply to Germany. Yeah. Or wait for 2027, see how the new rules change everything. See if the Behörde, if the authorities are letting candidates or applicants directly sit for the Kenntnisprüfung, yeah, without sending you back and saying that, okay, you have to complete your education. I would say in such a case, wait and watch. Yeah. If you clear your FMG, I think you still have to do your internship. So do your internship and wait. Okay. People who have already finished their B2, who are way ahead with their preparation, who are already done with their B2, you guys have nothing to lose. So for you guys, it makes more sense in applying right now instead of waiting for 2027 for the new rules. Yeah. But then again, please do your research and know exactly where you have to apply to. Yeah. Do not apply to any Bundesland and do not apply to any Behörde. Do your research, write emails, call up the authorities, and then only apply. And if you need our help, here's a contact. Hello, I am an FMG from Ukraine with internship and whole Indian medical license. How is situation for candidates like me? Also, please tell how situation will end with the new federal law, November 2026. About the law, we covered it quite well in the webinar. And in your case, I would advise you to apply to a Bundesland where you can sit for the Kenntnisprüfung directly and do not apply for Gleichwertigkeit. Hello, sir. I studied in Georgia and passed FMG and waiting for internship. What is the process to get into residency there? I think we've already covered about Georgia. And so the main system is the same for everyone. Okay, if you don't know the system in general, look at a previous webinar where the system was explained. But for you, for somebody who studied in Georgia, 2 questions back, I answered this. Hi, so I completed in Russia and completed FMG, but I do not have accreditation in Russia. So whether I need to complete it for eligibility in Germany, the answer is yes, and the answer is no. Yeah. So in your case, if you have completed FMG, the question is, have you done your internship and do you have a permanent medical license? If you do, I would advise you to apply to a Bundesland for a Kenntnisprüfung directly. Yeah. Now, what would I have told you if you were still in Russia? If you were still in Russia, I would have told you, please stay back in Russia, finish the accreditation, and then apply here. Once you get your license there, a license to practice there, then apply here. Okay, so the answer is different depending on what stage of your journey you are on. All right, there's no blanket answer for anyone. What's the process for medical graduates from Kyrgyzstan 2023 onwards? I would say it's the same. Look at the requirements on the ANABIN website, see what they need for you to practice as a medical graduate in Kyrgyzstan. Once you have the license to practice in Kyrgyzstan, then apply to Germany. If you have the license to practice from another country or your home country, then apply to a Bundesland, which makes you sit for the Kenntnisprüfung directly. Otherwise, wait until 2027, where the new rules are coming into place, and see if people who have already applied from Kyrgyzstan, if they're facing problems like now, where they are made to go back to your country and finish your education. Yeah. Next question is, so I did 6 years study from Belarus, but I don't have registration in Belarus. Instead, I have license from India. Am I eligible from Germany? The answer is the same for the rest, yes and no. I would advise you to apply to a Bundesland where you can sit for the Kenntnisprüfung right now. It might work. Hi, sir. I'm a fifth-year medical student in Georgia. I can't write FMG after I graduate since I didn't write NEET UG due to COVID. Is there a pathway I could follow? Yes, there is a pathway. For somebody like you, I would advise you to get the medical license in Georgia. Yeah, you're in your 5th year. You have another year. So finish your education in Georgia, then write the state exam in Georgia, do your residentura, and then once you get the license to practice in Georgia, then you can apply to Germany. That would be the best way for you. We don't have completed medical license, we just have junior license certificate, and we have also passed FMG. Okay, I don't know which country the applicant is from, but I guess it's Georgia. So if you have you've passed FMG, if you've done your internship and you have the license to practice in India, apply to a Bundesland where they let you apply for the Kenntnisprüfung directly. Can you tell how things will change after November 1st, 2026? Yeah, so if the law this was mentioned quite extensively in our webinar, but I'm going to mention it again. So if the law gets passed by the Bundesrat, then from that moment onwards, all applications will have to, by default, appear for the Kenntnisprüfung. Yeah. Right now, the default is you submit your documents, all your documents go to the Gleichwertigkeitsprüfung. And if they find a deficit, they'll say, okay, it's not equivalent, you have a deficit. To prove your knowledge, you have to apply for the Approbation, for the Kenntnisprüfung. Or in some cases, say, oh, your education is not complete yet. So that's the default right now. So once the new rule is passed, it's going to get switched. So the first part is that once it gets switched, the first part is that appear for the Kenntnisprüfung, and then there is an option where you can apply directly for Gleichwertigkeit. Yeah. So I would advise people who have the license to practice in your study country, yeah, to independently practice in your study country. And if you have all the right documentation in place, then even after the new rule comes into place, if your documents are bulletproof, still apply for the Gleichwertigkeit. Yeah. I hope this point is clear. Weak Bencher says FSP, then KP, then Approbation. Yes, that looks like a good timeline. Thanks for sharing, Doctor. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm a FMG candidate. I did not pass. Please sit for your FMG exam again and try to clear it. Okay. There's no way to go around it. Yeah. and I'm sure if you study enough, you will complete it. So study, put in the hard work, and try to complete your FMG exam. Once you've completed, once you've done your internship, then you can explore your options again. Okay. Is it true that students are rejected even after they started preparing for Kentness proof of exam just because their documents are not enough? Yes, there have been instances where people have applied and they were allowed to sit for the Fachsprachprüfung, and then all of a sudden their documents were called back saying that, okay, you've not completed your education. So there have been instances like this. So yeah, your answer is right. So which is why it's very important to do your due diligence before applying to a Bundesland. Yeah, know what are the requirements. Don't listen to any Tom, Dick, and Harry who says, okay, do this, do that. And the rules keep on changing. So you have to keep on looking at the official websites, see what are the requirements, write emails, call them, talk to them. Okay. I'm wondering if it's okay for me to practice in Germany with a temporary license while waiting to do Kenntnisprüfung. Yes, it's okay. It's okay to practice while you're waiting for. My advice would be is if you know that you're going to get your date for your Kenntnisprüfung early, I would say use that time and study. Go all in and just study for your Kenntnisprüfung. But if you have a waiting period of, say, I don't know, 18 months, then it makes sense to work. Gauhar Krishnan says, I did my MBBS from China with 1 year of internship, then cleared FMG, currently doing my internship in India. Am I eligible for Germany? So yes and no. In your case, I would advise you is that you're currently doing your internship, you've not started learning German. In your case, I would advise you is sit back and wait and watch and see how the situation develops. Yeah. See what's happening after 2027. See what's happening with people with your same profile who have applied in Germany. If after 2027, if in 2000, after the new law, if people like you are still getting rejected and being asked to go back to your home country to finish your degree, then I would advise you to either choose another destination, not Germany, or go back to China and get the license to practice in China. Yeah, but in your case, I would advise you to wait and watch. If you were somebody who had already had a B2, who's already gone through the trouble of studying until B2, I would have told you to apply to a Bundesland, which lets you apply for Kenntnisprüfung directly. Yeah, so the answer is different for everyone. Hello, I've just cleared my FMG exam 2026. Is there any hope I can enter Germany? First of all, congratulations. The FMG exam is not a cakewalk, and the pass percentage is still quite low. So congratulations. It depends. I don't know where you've studied from. In your case, I would advise you to do your internship and wait and see how the situation develops. Can you please once again mention the site? Yeah, it's called Anabin, Anabin. Anabin. The requirements, that's the requirements from each country. That's the requirements of the GFK from each country where you finish your education. Okay, and requirements from each state, you just have to Google it. You just have to Google the Bundesland and see where's the who's the authority there. This webinar is going to be uploaded to YouTube later on, so you can go through the video on YouTube later on, and there is a slide which showed all the 16 Bundesländer and all the authorities there. So we've made it a bit easy for you, so you can go to all these websites and look at the requirements. All right. Another question again from China. I've studied from China, passed the FMG JAN exam, and waiting for internship or license according to the new rule. Is there any hope for Germany? Again, congratulations on passing your exam. Yeah, the answer is the same for you. I would wait and watch to your internship, wait and watch and see how applicants from China are being treated after the new rules, the new law. If you really want to practice in Germany, the straightforward way for you is to go back to China and get the license to practice there. Otherwise, I would say to your internship, wait and watch. I have done my MBBS from India, have internship certificate as well as MMC license. Congratulations, good for you. So you're somewhat an outlier in this webinar because most of the participants in this webinar are foreign medical graduates, but for you the pathway is straightforward. Apply for the Kenntnisprüfung and write it and then get approbation. So you wouldn't face this problem because you have completed all your primary education from one country and you've got the license from that country. So there's no problem for you. I mean the site where we can check the list of state that doesn't need country of graduation license. There is no such list. Yeah, you have to individually go to each and every Behörde. Yeah. So for example, Nordrhein-Westfalen is ZAG in Münster. Ja? Zentrale Anerkennungsstelle für Gesundheitsberuf, approbierte Heilberufe. So you have to go to their website, look at the requirements, look at the form. What does the form say? Is there an option to do something like this? What are the other requirements? Do you need a concrete job application, or do you just need it's all right if you just have a what do you call that? If you have a Hospitationszusage, if somebody agrees to let you do a Hospitation in their hospital, yeah. So you have to individually. There is no such list available on the internet. Yeah, you have to make your own list. Okay, so do the research and get it. We've answered this question already. When should I start applying for the temporary license? Graduated in Russia in 2023, but 1 year of internship in Malaysia. But you first need to have a license to practice medicine somewhere, and in your case, I don't think you have that, because if you don't have the license to practice medicine in some country, your documents are going to get rejected. So get a license to practice medicine first. We've answered this question. I did my MBBS from Belarus, no registration. I didn't give FMGE in India. Instead, I'm in Germany now learning language. Can I sit for KPL or any alternative? The answer in your case is no. You need to have registration either in Belarus or in India. I don't know who's advised you to come to Germany to learn the language, but I don't know what. No, 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 no. Sorry. I will graduate from Medical University in Uzbekistan in 2029. I want to know which documents I should collect before leaving. The university said they will provide a license. So you're going to finish your medical education in 2029. Are you going to get the Are you going to get a diploma, or are you going to get the license to practice medicine in Uzbekistan? This is a point which I would look into more deeply. Yeah, they are two completely different things. Yeah, Uzbekistan and all the former USSR countries have this. The system is almost a bit similar. It's almost similar, where you have your 6-year education, then you get a diploma, but you don't necessarily get the license to practice in that country. So I would look into this deeply before applying. Okay. How can MedSeal help us currently at A2? Please tell us the approximate cost of the whole process with consultancy. I would say get in touch with us through email. There is no answer where we can say, okay, the cost of this is this, etc., etc. Some of you maybe just need a 1-hour call with one of us. So I can't really answer this like that. Okay, so a lot of you'll just need to clear a few doubts, and all you need is a 1-hour call or a 2-hour call. Yeah, so I would say make use of that service where you just speak to us for an hour or so and get all the advice you need, and then you're set and you're done. So I have done 1 year of internship. Yeah. Good job. I don't know if this is okay. You've added, this was your question earlier. I have cleared FMG and I hope, and you've completed internship also. Okay. All right. This was where have you done 1 year internship? I mean, I still haven't understood, because if you finished your FMG, your internship follows after that, isn't it? Or do you have 1 year internship from China? If I want to pursue PhD in Germany, what's the first step of language and document preparation? Dr. Anu Gaika, I think you have finished your MBBS from India. Okay, for you, Dr. Anu Gaika, look at a previous webinar or look at the different blogs which are there on our website, or just search the internet. For you, the answer is pretty much straightforward. Yeah, and your question actually doesn't belong to this webinar. This is mainly for FMGs. All right, but for you, the answer is straightforward. Yeah, and there's enough of information about that. So please read. First to apply for recognition, then FSP. Yeah, pretty much. This is pretty much the way. Apply for recognition, then come to Germany on a visa, then give your FSP, and then KP. I've already answered a lot of questions from China, so I'm going to skip this. Some people also suggest doing FMG in India first to obtain an Indian license and then apply to Germany. Yeah, you either need a license from India or from the country where you've studied from, and if you apply to some Bundesländer, your Indian license is not irrelevant. You need a license to apply, and you need a license from your study country. So. Shiza Khan, Thüringen, Sachsen-Anhalt, Sachsen, Baden-Württemberg. Yeah, that's the dilemma, which Bundesland to apply to. The thing is, I don't want to tell you on this webinar that okay, apply to this Bundesland, this Bundesland, and it doesn't work. Yeah, so that's something that I want to refrain from saying that okay, apply to these Bundesländer, do not apply to that Bundesland. Yeah, because the thing is that would make it like a blanket answer to everyone's problems, which we really don't want to do. We don't want to mislead people. So the answer to these things is very much individual. Yeah, it depends on on what stage you have reached. It depends on your documents, and I don't want to tell you okay, do not apply to Thüringen or do not apply to North Rhine-Westphalia, or the Kenntnisprüfung in North Rhine-Westphalia is really difficult, don't apply there, or the Fachsprachprüfung is really difficult there, don't apply there. We're gonna refrain from making such comments here, yeah. So I can't really answer your question, Shiza. I'm sorry, but get in touch with us and we'll have a look and see if we can help you out. Yes, or the other option is get the Uzbekistan license and apply it directly without going through India and doing your FMG. If you get the Uzbekistan license to practice in Uzbekistan, that's also a possibility for you to apply. Yeah, but that would mean that you need the license to practice in Uzbekistan. So for you, there are two options, honestly speaking. You have to pass the Weekbencher, you have to pass the Fachsprachprüfung before you do the Kenntnisprüfung. Okay. Which state is good for girls who apply independently? Thüringen, Sachsen, but rumors about racism is really on to me. Some say that Baden-Württemberg is good, but oversaturation Kenntnisprüfung is within 4 months is difficult. Yeah, rumors about racism. Yeah, what can I say about that? And that they're saturated and Kenntnisprüfung within 4 months is difficult. So hopefully after the new rules, the Bearbeitung side is going to be faster. That people are going to look at your documents at a much faster pace. Hopefully. About racism, this is my personal opinion. All right, racism exists everywhere in some small form. Yeah, it even exists in India. And I'll give you an example. If you're somebody from the south who wants to work in the north, at some point of time you have faced some sort of racism or casteism or something like that. So in that way, such small instances happen everywhere. How can you overcome such things? The only way you can overcome such things is if you have a very, very good command of the language. So if you have a good command of language, I don't think you're going to have problems. And even if you face racism, you can counter it with your own words if you know the language well. All right. So again, I want to refrain from telling you which Bundesland to apply to, because there is no such blanket answer, unfortunately. Yeah. Hello, I have completed my MBBS from Philippines and I have registration in India. On Anvem website, my university is showing H plus minus both sides. But so people from the Philippines, you won't face any problems. They won't ask you to go back and get a internship from the Philippines itself, because if you look at the Anvem website and you look at the requirements, they have specifically mentioned there is no cooperation between India and Philippines. So somebody from India cannot do their internship in Philippines, even if he wants to. So you wouldn't have a problem. Don't worry, your degree is going to be, I mean, you will get the license. I mean, you will get a deficit Bescheid. And yeah, plus minus doesn't necessarily mean that you have that your university is not equivalent. Yeah. If you have a doubt, just write them an email and see, or get in touch with us and see if we can help you. In the previous conference, Fairs mentioned that yes, so the current problematic countries are Kyrgyzstan, Georgia, China. So these are the countries which are facing a lot of problems, and where they've been asked to go back to their own countries. And the problem is the same. Why is this happening? Is because how the GFK interprets your Abschluss. Yeah. So they have certain norms for every country, which is available on the Anvem website. Have a look at it, and that's how they define somebody's education to have been complete. I have completed my house job and I'm currently doing my B1 language course. Can I send my documents to any state to Germany to start the process? No, you can only, the requirements is at least a B2. So finish your B2 and then apply. Do online study periods due to COVID affect this whole process? Yes, it might be affected. Yeah. Okay, so my diverse diary says I'm from Pakistan, did my MBBS from China, completed my internship in Pakistan, got my license as well from Pakistan. And I also did my house job. Now I'm in Germany doing language. Okay, so for you, you are already in Germany. So you've gone through the step and you've come here. So for you, it does make sense to finish your B2 and apply right now. So no sooner you finish your B2, you have to apply. For you, it makes sense. You have to apply because you're here already. Yeah. So the answer for you is apply now, but apply to the right Bundesland. You're welcome. We've already answered a lot of questions about Georgia, so I'm going to skip this. Is it fine if I get medical license from any country apart from India or Georgia? It depends. I don't know what's your plan, but it really depends. Georgian doctors, junior doctor certificate, practice after language exam per 6 year with 1 year internship. Is this accepted as a license for Bundesland application, FSP-KP? So if you have a license to practice in Georgia, you can apply. FSP is compulsory for everyone. If your documents is gleichwertig, then you don't have to write the Kenntnisprüfung. You'll directly get your Approbation. But if they see deficits in your education, then you have to write the Kenntnisprüfung. Yeah, but you need a license to practice medicine independently, either in Georgia or your home country, wherever that is. Not getting, in your case, if you're in Uzbekistan in your 5th year, you have two options: either get the license to practice in Uzbekistan. That's a much more sure way for you to get to Germany. Okay. We've already answered questions from Georgia, enough of questions. Okay, I see a lot of questions repeating with the same thing. If some of you want to have doubts and you think that these doubts are not being answered on this webinar, I mean, we've covered most of these topics repeatedly because most of the questions are repeated, and you still think that you need to talk to us and get some advice, set up a call with us. Yeah, we do. Set up a call with us and we'll answer your queries. Yeah, it's a paid call. Yeah, I must mention it's a paid call. Why is it paid? Because time is money. We're all working professionals. We all have full-time jobs with calls and everything. So our time has a price. All right. So set up a call with us and see if we can help you out. Maybe some of you, after speaking to us for an hour or 2 hours, your answers are, you have all the answers you need, and you don't need anything else, and that's enough. Yeah. Do you think that the license from country of studies for FMG will be eliminated in the coming policy? That's hopefully yes. Hopefully yes, it's going to be eliminated, but unfortunately, it can't be guaranteed. Yeah, it can't be guaranteed because it depends on which Bundesland is looking at your documents. So it's going to be different depending on which Bundesland you apply to. Yeah, so that's what everyone hopes for. Yeah, but can we say that this thing is going to happen 100%? Unfortunately not. Yeah, so which is why, depending on which stage you are of your application, if you already have a B2, it makes sense for you to apply because then you have, if you don't apply, you have everything to lose. You've gone through this process, you've learned B2, you've spent time learning the language. If you don't apply, then you won't know. Yeah, it makes sense for you to apply and try. If you're somebody who has not started learning German yet, I would advise you wait and watch and see how the situation develops. Yeah, you can still learn German because learning a language, it doesn't do any harm. What should graduates from Kyrgyzstan do? I've answered this already. I'm going to skip this. But I'm afraid, like, if I apply, they will ask to go back to China. Yes, I understand. But yeah, unfortunately, there's no other way to, you have to do your due diligence and apply to a Bundesland where you can write the Kenntnisprüfung directly. Try that way, see if it works. If it doesn't work, then bad luck. Yeah, I already said that I'm not going to answer that we're not going to directly to any Bundesland on this webinar, because that would be wrong. You're welcome. Armenia, the answer is the same. Do you have the license to practice there? If yes, apply it directly. If you don't have the license to practice there, but you have the license to practice in your home country, then apply to a Bundesland where you can sit for the Kenntnisprüfung directly. If you've not started learning German yet, wait and watch, see how the situation develops after the new law, and see if people are still being asked to go back to finish their education. If that's the case, then either you search for another country or go back to Armenia and get the degree to the license to practice there. And yeah, and I guess that was the last question. So with this, we are going to end our webinar. For today. I hope there was some new information that you guys gathered at this webinar. I hope there was some of your doubts were answered, and I hope you could see why exactly this problem has why we are facing this problem in today's day. What are the norms and what are the prerequisites that the Bundesländer are looking at? Yeah. If you guys have any doubts, here are details. You can contact us on email or WhatsApp. There's a WhatsApp number, or just write us an email with your doubts, and we'll see what we can do for you, and we see how we can help you. But I hope this webinar was of some help. All right. So have a good Sunday, and this webinar is going to be available on YouTube, so you can come back and check it out later. All right. Goodbye. Have a nice Sunday.